Hello and welcome to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? Thanks to every single person that prays for us and sends us your best wishes and sends us your emails and words of encouragement, words of affirmation, and just, and just the good vibes that you send me. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Now, there's something that I wanted to share. I think it's something that a lot of us know, but I think we know it, but we may not have fully heard it the way I'm going to put it. And it's very, very important that we stop deceiving ourselves, because the grand deception is the reason why Africa is where it is today. You know, this grand deception about who we are, where we came from, our history, our God, our masters, everything about even our origins, our everything has been lied to. Everything, there's just been this grand deception where literally the world has been turned upside down and inside out. And one of the things that we seem to lie to ourselves about, especially on the African continent, and I think this is why people just continue with business as usual, is we seem to lie to ourselves that we are free, that we are 54 independent nations making decisions for themselves, making the best decisions for their citizens, in control of their destiny. And I keep seeing this narrative in the comments. Africa, wake up. Why won't Africa just wake up? African leaders do this. Africa, just shut out the West. Yes. In a world that is not doctored, where in a world where everything is equal, it would be very easy for us to do that. It would be Africa would have had its industrialization decades ago. But there's been this constant manipulation that we have not seen, and the manipulation is there because we believe we are free. We're not free. Far from it. Because, brothers and sisters, Africa is a resource colony, plain and simple. Plain and simple. Right now they're right now they're literally pillaging our natural resources based on an economic system they created that doesn't benefit us, where they take our diamonds, they take our gold, and they literally give us back pieces of paper with their people on them, with their doppies on them. If you're Jamaican, you'll get that. But this, it's wizardry. Their system is genius. And so we're constantly doing this. And with this idea, we have our president now, we have our ministers, and we just can't develop because Africa can't manage its resources. We're constantly being, gaslit. We're constantly being told how inadequate we are. But we're never really seeing the truth of the picture, which lies to ourselves. Africa, we're not free. Colonialism never, ever ended. It didn't end. It just, our ancestors told us they went through the front door and came through the side door. We went immediately from the colonial era to the New World Order agenda. The New World Order was implemented many years ago. Many people think, now we're entering the New World Order. No, it's been there for years and years and decades. And Africa, we are a resource colony. Like, if you look at it, every African nation has a foreign occupation. I think the last time they said that the United States, through their AFRICOM program, has a military presence in 36 plus African nations. Where they don't have a military presence, there are French troops or there are British troops. But basically, the Western hegemony has a military presence in every African nation. For decades, because of these diplomatic laws and diplomatic agreements that exist, where you can basically bring things into my nation under the diplomatic law and you won't be searched. There are so many stockpiles. There's a military intelligence officer, I won't mention his name, that got in touch with me from a Southern African nation that told me there are stockpiles and stockpiles of weapons that Western nations have buried across Africa, because they realize now We have some not so enlightened leaders that will give them everything literally for free. They have leaders that are afraid to do anything. But they also realize that one day there will be a revolution. It's inevitable. It's unstoppable. So they're trying to bring as many machines, as many weapons, as many guns and bombs into our nations. I mean, the US just built the biggest, I think it's their biggest drone center, drone base in the world in Niger. You think that's just because they're experimenting and they want to keep off China? You don't think that that drone base will deploy those drones across the continent? They've been focusing on having the necessary technology to, to send in robots so that they don't have to die, because their population is already dwindled enough, to send their armies to remotely Finnish nations where they don't have to shed any blood. They've been working on technologies that saw them almost die out before. Malaria vaccines and all these things so that they can now live and survive and thrive in Africa. Then in some twisted demonic twist of fate, if I can even say that, I'm repeating myself. They've got our youth leaving the continent to go for, greener pastures in their nation. They're dying by the thousands. And their organs are funding a multi-trillion-dollar international organ harvesting, black market industry. Where do you think all the lungs and kidneys come from? To be given to all these different Western and European, patients. Think they're just falling from the sky? But really what Africa needs to be aware of, because, we must move with, the truth is bitter, but it's wise, but we must move so wisely, recognizing that freedom is a myth. Our freedom is an illusion. It's never existed. We are a resource colony. If we arose today as Kenya and said we want Kenya back, we're taking back our oil, we're taking back our rubies, we're taking back everything. And then we want our colonial lands back. What do you think the British Army in Laikipia, which is about 3,500 men strong, and they can triple or quadruple it within 24 hours, what do you think would happen to that? Do you think the British troops would just be like, all right, we're out? What do you think someone who has colonized us before will do when we demand our freedom for real, for real? What do you think they'll do? Think they'll just be like, okay, yeah, it's cool? You think so? You think we'll be able to get out of these 20, 30, 40-year-old policy deals that bind us to a neo-colonial agenda? You think so? While we're divided? Africa is a resource colony. Every nation has a foreign military presence, and now China's coming in. China has been sending their army quietly into different African states, saying they're protecting their citizens and protecting their assets. Remember earlier in the year when we were seeing, different police stations being set up by China? They've now, you see what China has done? They're still moving. They're still making predatory moves, but what they've done is they've compromised media by buying out a lot of the local media houses and the journalists. And then they're now just doing things quietly. So a lot of things aren't reported. If it's not reported, the majority of the people won't even pick up on it. And people will just assume it's business as usual. But as much as we are, because you see, in a twinkle of an eye, we will be free. But I have no fear, but let me just say my greatest fear is that many of us won't make it because of our mentality and because of our heart consciousness. Our heart consciousness is not in the right place. We love the other and hate ourselves. We aspire to be the other and teach our children to be alien to their own culture, to their own spirituality, to their own nature. And we think we can beat highly organized, highly effective, and extremely dangerous enemies that are already here occupying our land? We really think we can just do that just like that without multiple casualties? There are solutions. There is a very clear roadmap of how Africa will be free. But are you ready? Are you ready to change what's in here and to change what's up here? Just remember, every time you're celebrating this Western thing or that Western thing, or trying to be fit, trying to say, we're good, we're free. Just remember, your country is a resource colony. You have no freedom. The day you really want freedom is when you'll know how free you really are.